Every man has had an interaction with a woman where she did something that, if a man did it to a woman, he would be labeled a bad guy. One of mine was when I was 20. I used to work at a water park, and this woman in her 70s had taken a liking to me. The water park required us to all clock in pretty much at the same time, so a line would form at the time clock. This woman came up behind me and started rubbing on my back, and at one point even touched me inappropriately, and all my coworkers, who were overwhelmingly female because I worked in ticket sales, just stood around thinking nothing of it. But if it was a man in his 70s feeling up on a 20-year-old girl without consent, he would be fired before he even had a chance to clock in for the day. Story 1. She wanted to try out pegging. I told her my butt is an exit only, despite my username. She said our mutual friend couple tried it and loved it. I said good for them. Her. Well, what if I just did it anyways? Me. What do you mean by that? Her. Like when we're having sex. What if I just did it? Me. That's definitely rape. Her. What the heck? No, it's not. Me. So then what would you call sticking something up my butt without my consent? Story 2. I worked at a law firm as a paralegal, and a partner there was a great mentor to me. She was an absolute genius and a very kind person. Super patient with my mistakes and a great teacher, unlike many high-performing lawyers. In our weekly meetings, we opened with a few slides about recommendations or likes on a topic like movies, music, or books. The person chairing would add some pictures to go with answers, and when it was her turn, she used a photo of a muscular man in an adaptation of an Austen novel with a wet shirt that was sticking to his body. She said in front of the whole firm that she had to include that photo because, wow, I mean, look at that, am I right? Nobody said anything, but I'd bet anything if that was a male colleague, let alone a partner who was mentoring a female paralegal, the entire meeting would have come to a screeching halt. Story 3. It was the end of year cleaning at the factory where I used to work. There were a fair amount of women who worked there. Regarding the cleaning, the women were against it, saying they didn't want to get their hands dirty and it was a man's job. I mentioned gender equality and one of them said, yes, but not in all things. Story 4. Earlier today, there was a thread in the bisexual subreddit where a woman was asking how to ask out a waitress. Several people suggested that she should keep going back to the restaurant alone until she got that server, then flirt with her on the job and leave a big tip with her phone number attached. I don't even need to spell it out. It's so obvious. What they were recommending her to do contradicts so many common pieces of dating advice given to men. As soon as the inherent assumption that the person doing it is some kind of evil, perverted abuser, a man, all that goes out the window. Story 5. Twice in college, I had girls try to force themselves on me. Both times I just pushed them off and that was that. They weren't happy about it, but I was bigger and stronger than them, so there was nothing they could really do about it. I didn't even realize until years later that that's technically sexual assault. I didn't think much of it at the time. Story 6. Had a girl literally grab my dick when I was on stage singing karaoke. I pushed her off of me, the bartender did nothing, the security did nothing. I had to complain to the manager and had to point out sexual assault is sexual assault regardless of gender. Story 7. Had a bunch of female coworkers at one job. I really enjoyed working with them and they used to tease me about some things or ask me about my girlfriend, etc., and a lot of behavior that if I had done it would have gotten me fired. Honestly, I did not mind because I knew it was in good fun. But one day I did point out, look, I am fine with it, but if the roles were reversed here, I would be written up for sexual harassment. They looked shocked and said, but we are just having fun. They missed the point, the staggering double standard. Story 8. I'm a guy with shoulder-length hair. I was once rejected from a pizza place during a job interview because they said my hair was too long. My hair was in a bun at the time, the uniform would require a hat, and my entire head of hair fits under one, which I demonstrated during the interview. Across the room, a girl was making pizza in the kitchen with untied, back-length hair. There was also another girl at the register with a pixie cut. If women can have their hair however they want and be professional, why can't men? Story 9. I went to a florist shop with my 6-year-old son. The lady behind the counter told my son how handsome he was and how he should come back and see her when he turned 16. She was in her 50s. Story 10. The number of times I have been openly groped or sexually assaulted by women is really high. Being grabbed, having my private areas touched, or experiencing stolen kisses. It's really wild. Story 11. I broke up with this girl to give her time to get her life together and leave. She said, "I'm still going to have sex with you when I want." I told her, "No, that part of our relationship is over. I'm not interested in that with you, and it would just complicate things." She replied, "I don't care what you say. If I want it, I'm going to take it." I responded, "You realize that's rape, right?" And she said, "I don't care. I'll rape you then, whatever." She's a rape survivor who experienced a drugged gang rape and had to get an abortion. Story 12. About a year or so back, a 25-year-old woman made a post on this forum discussing how men lose their sweetness as they age. She mentioned that she was only interested in barely legal men. Several people responded talking about the challenges we face, and to be fair, they were right. However, I chose to point out how she was sounding alarmingly like someone with predatory tendencies. If any one of us started talking about only being interested in 18-year-olds and their sweetness, which is often a code for naivety, we'd be rightfully criticized. Some men on this forum defended her, while others agreed with me. It became a controversial comment. Some people argued that she was only 25, but my point was that she would continue aging, and her interests seemed to be focused on men who didn't know any better and were just barely legal. My guess is that if the age of consent were lower, she would have aimed lower too. It's like Chris Rock's joke about your boss and minimum wage. "I'd pay you less if I could, but it's against the law." The last point I want to make is that, honestly, I'm not sure I'd have an issue with an 18-year-old organically starting a relationship with a 25-year-old. But there's a difference between I'm dating this person, and they just so happen to be barely above the age of consent, versus I'm dating this person because they're barely above the age of consent. Story 13. When I was 24 or so, I approached a table of girls in a lounge trying to be Mr. Suave. Made zero physical contact with any of the women. Out of nowhere, I feel a firm slap to the back of my head. It was one of the members of that group just returning from the bathroom. I say, "What would happen if I did that to you?" She responded, "Oh, you're one of those. I still wonder what I'll do if that ever happens to me again." Is approaching a table of women not the right move? Probably not. It's too aggressive, and I showed no interest in a particular woman, so I get that I wasn't exactly showing etiquette myself. But was a slap to the back of the head worth getting her kicked out of that place? I think about that. Story 14. Long time ago, how I lost my virginity. This was the 1980s. I have no memory of it. I was blackout drunk. We were dating and were going to do it soon anyway. And in her defense, she didn't know I was that drunk. But we left a high school party and walked the 2 blocks to her house, snuck into her bedroom, had apparently lousy sex where we lost our virginities together. I was blackout drunk. She was sober. A couple of hours later, I woke up and she filled me in. If the roles were reversed, it would totally have been date rape. As it was, we just blew it off as an oopsie. A week later, I got a repeat sober and I was apparently a much better lover. Story 15. When my child was under a year old, women of all ages constantly tried to touch, kiss, and pick him up. If a man tried to do that, they would be locked up. This includes complete strangers while out in public. I couldn't go to the grocery store without some older woman trying to kiss my infant. Story 16. I'm single, and one night, around 11 p.m., my bedroom door opened, and someone came in and closed the door. It was pitch black. Then this female voice said, "Mind if I sit down?" I leaned over and turned on the lamp on the nightstand. I knew her as we had been on a couple of dates. I asked what she was doing. She started talking and said she needed someone to talk to. After a few minutes, she stood up, undid her pants, and started to get undressed. Again, I asked her what she was doing. She replied that she thought she would get into bed with me as it would be better to talk. No, I told her to get dressed and get out of my house. She was mad at me because, according to her, what kind of a guy kicks a half-naked girl out of his bed? I told her a tired guy that has morals. She didn't speak to me for a long time. I couldn't help but wonder if I walked into a girl's house at 11 p.m. and did the same thing if she would have yelled and called the police. Story 17. If a man has sex with an underage child, it is always reported in the media as rape, sexual assault, or grooming. If a woman does the same, it's has sex with. Story 18. My buddy had a female roommate at one point. They were very social and hosted parties nearly every weekend. At these parties, his roommate would seemingly pick a random guy and start pushing alcohol on him while not drinking herself and staying sober. Once he was nearly blackout drunk, she would guide him to her room where she would get another notch on the lipstick case. This particular situation never happened to me, and while I do have a personal experience, I will not be sharing it. That goes with me to the grave. Story 19. Public bathrooms. Women coming into the men's room at sports events or festivals is pretty much normal. Who wants to deal with those extra long lines, after all? I attended a music festival years ago where one woman, after finishing her business in one of the stalls, actually walked down the row of men standing at the urinals and looked over everyone's shoulder. When another woman asked her what she was doing, she replied, "Just checking to see if there's something I like." Story 20. Online. All the time on this forum where female users express outright hate-filled sexist comments about men, and some come here to dismiss men's experiences, saying, "Not all women," when no one generalized all women. It seems acceptable to treat men this way, justifying it in the name of gender equality and past trauma or some excuse. Real life. I had a drunk woman slap my backside at work and yell, "Hey, sexy." I know a woman who gets touchy with me while we talk. I've had a female customer describe in detail how much she squirts during sex, with her friend giggling behind her, at my cashier point while young school kids were in the store. I worked with a woman who flirted with many men at work, including me. Once, she groped my backside during a hug and even offered to have sex with me at work. She was fired after getting caught with the security guard behind the stock cages. Another woman I worked with always greeted me with a kiss on the forehead and cheek and a big hug. I've had random women, mostly drunk, try to force a makeout session with me on nights out or, on rare occasions, grab me inappropriately. One woman customer used to linger around me until I left the area after I once complimented her My Chemical Romance shirt. I think she was just shy and awkward. As a child, I remember in elementary school, on the last day before moving to high school, the lunch lady put on red lipstick and kissed all the 10 to 11-year-old boys on the forehead or cheek. I found it gross and avoided it, but I saw every boy with a lipstick-stained kiss on their face as if it were a medal. My friends tried to pressure me into getting a kiss, which was really weird. Imagine if a male lunch worker did the same to young girls. I don't know if that lunch lady still has her job. It was predatory behavior, and even as a child, I knew it was weird and gross. My mother was disturbed when I told her, and she agreed that it was gross, unlike the school or my peers. In secondary school, a male geography teacher preying on teenage girls was caught giving a 15-year-old booze, condoms, and keys to his house. He was found with illegal material on his computer and had a folder called Leisure with perverted pictures of young girls. He was arrested and jailed, as he should be. The headmaster was also let go for knowing about it and doing nothing. The male geography teacher is in jail, but no news about the lunch lady at my elementary school, who went around kissing young boys, sometimes against their will. Story 21. When I was younger, my dad's female friend would ask my brother and me for a kiss on the cheek because we were such cute little babies or whatever. When I went to do it, she would turn her head so I would kiss her on the mouth and laugh. I doubt it would be seen as normal if I were a girl and she were a man. Kids are dumb, so I thought it was funny, obviously, and I would do it back all the time to her too after that. I am not traumatized by it or have any bad feelings from it, but I remember it so clearly, like I had a crush on her. She just moved away one day, and we never saw her again, which sucked because I was friends with her son. Here is the kicker. I then found out that she went on to film child pornography with her friends of some little girl, and they were all sent to prison. I found this out only a year and a half ago. I think it happened after she moved, but I feel that the kissing thing was somehow less innocent after finding that out. Story 22. Groped, and she forcefully kissed me in the middle of class while I was dating someone already. This was in front of easily 15 or more people, including the teacher. Nothing happened to her, literally nothing. Not even a "don't do that" from the teacher. Story 23. My ex assaulted me, and on the final court hearing, she didn't show up because she fled the state, but she got a doctor's note. It's been 3 years, and the case is still going. If I assaulted her and fled the state, I would have police at my door in 10 minutes. Story 24. It's called stealthing when a guy does it, but I woke up to a woman that I had been sleeping with for about 18 months riding me with no protection. We had used condoms before. I caught something that needed pills to clean up. Believe it or not, that actually made me decide to never again wear a condom. That seems counterintuitive, but I wouldn't have slept with her without one. So I'm really upping my standards in partners if I only sleep with women that I would sleep with no condom. Story 25. I had a situation when I worked at Burger King where the store manager's daughter had taken a liking to me. She knew I was already dating another woman and that I also had no interest in her. I was disassembling the broiler one day, and she was standing behind me talking. Whatever. I can talk, work, and remain civil all at once. At some point in the conversation, she reached around me and caressed my forearm from wrist to elbow. I yanked my arm away and loudly said, "Don't touch me." A moment later, she did it again. I responded the same way. She patted my butt and walked away. Knowing that she was the store manager's daughter, reporting it to the store manager wouldn't do any good. And the district manager was best friends with the store manager and had been for over 13 years. So I couldn't go to the district manager either. I called the headquarters of the company that owned our franchise to complain. Headquarters said that the district manager handles those types of complaints. I tried to tell headquarters that I didn't trust the district manager because of her friendship with the store manager and that it was the store manager's daughter who I had a complaint about. They refused to change their command structure to accommodate my unique case. I was forced to report it to the district manager, who told the store manager I complained. The retaliation started and nothing was done. I quit shortly after for a better job.